And welcome back to Bengal Bites, a podcast about the Cincinnati Bengals from one fan's real, honest perspective. I'm your host, Derek. This is episode 78. This is the Week 16 recap episode where the Cincinnati Bengals took care of business at home against the Cleveland Browns and improved their record on the season to 7-8 and are still in the hunt for that final playoff spot in the AFC. In this episode, we're going to break down all the outstanding performances we saw in this game. A lot of the star players for the Bengals stepped up, but also some contributing players played major roles on all sides of the ball. Offense, defense, special teams, trenches, skill players, you name it. There are a ton of things to be positive about in this Bengals decisive home victory. So we're going to break all that down. We're going to focus on the game itself because I know everybody's all worried about the playoff odds and the chances and whether or not different players are going to win postseason awards, and all that stuff is great to have like a philosophical debate. But I wanted to have this podcast be a little bit different than most shows in that I want to focus on what happened in the game itself and just deconstruct and analyze it from not a former NFL player perspective, but from a former football player perspective. I think a lot of that gets lost in a lot of the other fan podcasts out there. So instead of worrying about too much of the drama, although there was some interesting bits of drama that Bengals state media propaganda machine doesn't want you to know about. So we'll get into some of the interesting details we saw. Another sideline incident between player and coach that the Bengals want to sweep under the rug and just pretend never happened. Let's all look the other way and everything's positive in Bengals land, right? But we're going to talk about the stuff Bengals don't want you to know about. So we'll get into a little bit of that later. Coming into this game, by the time the game started, the Bengals were favored by 10.5 points. It started off at 7. And then when the Browns announced that they were playing DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, starting at quarterback instead of Jameis Winston, the line immediately shifted 3.5 points in the Bengals' favor. So that should have told you something right there. Not a lot of confidence in Dorian Thompson-Robinson leading the Cleveland Browns to a victory, and he did not disappoint. From a football fan perspective, this was not a tremendously entertaining game of football. It was pretty one-sided from the beginning. The Bengals, except for the first play of the game where the Browns broke off a 66-yard run by Jerome Ford, the longest run of the Browns all season, another case of Jermaine Pratt looking tremendously slow, not even reacting, barely getting a hand on the running back as he ran right past him. Jordan Battle looked completely slow. He missed the tackle. If it weren't for Cam Taylor-Britt and Josh Newton, the two cornerbacks coming on from the outside, were able to take down Jerome Ford at about the 10 or 15-yard line of the Bengals, it would have been a touchdown. If it would have been, Jerome Ford is a backup running back, a veteran journeyman running back. If it would have been like Nick Chubb in his prime, back in the day, it would have been a easy runaway touchdown for the Browns in the first play. So the Bengals defense was looking pretty susceptible right from the start. But luckily, a couple of plays later, they found a miraculous play from their defense to force a fumble right at the goal line, right when it looked like the Browns were going to open up the game with a go-ahead touchdown. A lot of people obviously are going to give the credit to Von Bell on this play because he came in and punched the ball out of the running back's hands, Dante Foreman. The Browns were able to pick up a first down after converting it, and they had it inside the 1, first and goal. Dante Foreman, it looked like he scored, and then all of a sudden it said, fumble. But the other thing that you probably wouldn't pay attention to on that play was the Bengals linebacker, middle linebacker, number 50, Shaka Hayward, who was just recently called up from the practice squad. He came up and he laid a crushing hit on the fullback. It looked like it was a linebacker. He had a defensive number. It was like number 59 for the Browns. I'll have to go back and look on the roster who that was. But it was a linebacker on linebacker hit. One of the biggest hits I've seen a Bengals linebacker put on anybody all season, Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt included. I haven't seen either one of those two high-paid linebackers putting a lot of hits on anybody. But Shaka Hayward, a guy that the Bengals just brought up, he's finally getting a chance to get some meaningful snaps in the NFL. He sent that linebacker backwards that caused Dante Foreman to have to hesitate and not just have a clear path to walk into the end zone. So Shaka Hayward initially put the huge hit that allowed Von Bell to be completely untouched to come in and poke that ball out, get it back for the Bengals. So great play by Von Bell, but also a great play by Shaka Hayward. We also saw Mumajong Meta out there. He had a couple plays on defense, but good to see some of those Bengals backup linebackers. I can't say the same about Akeem Davis-Gaither. He continued to look not that impressive, but some of those young guys are stepping up, and that is encouraging to see. There's some depth behind those highly paid, older, aging veteran linebackers. But after that rough start for the Bengals defense, pretty much after that, it was smooth sailing for the Bengals the rest of the game, including immediately after that, the Bengals had the ball at their own 1 yard line. And everybody who's watching a football should know Bengals have the ball on their own 1 yard line. If they get a penalty, it's only going to move them back half a yard. It really doesn't matter if the Bengals false start or do anything. So all the incentive is on the Bengals to try to get the Browns to jump off sides. And that is exactly what one of the Browns linebackers did. For some reason, I don't know what he was thinking about. This guy fell for Joe Burrow with the hard count and jumped into the neutral zone. Penalty on the Browns. That gave the Bengals a free 5 yards to be able to give themselves some space with a 1st and 5, and then immediately pick up a first down after that. So bonehead play by the Browns defense. Spiro Ditas, the announcer for CBS, he said, great job by Joe Burrow of drawing him offside. And Adam Archuleta said, yeah, you could think of it that way. Or terrible defense by the Browns. And yeah, like everybody in the stadium should know that Joe Burrow is going to try to get you to jump offside. So the fact that you're a professional athlete, but these guys are young. That's the thing I always have to remember is these guys are so young. They've watched a lot of football, I would assume, just preparing for their jobs. But even then, they haven't had enough years on the earth to watch as much football as I probably have just in my old age at this point. So I have the benefit of watching all these games. But the same thing, these guys are so young. Just to get off topic real quick, Jerry Jeudy, there was a moment in one of the press conferences, because I was watching the Browns in their press conferences just to see what they would say about the Bengals. And they were saying all the right things about, oh yeah, we want to spoil the Bengals season. We're going to go down there and try to win and, try to make it seem like they were really going to give it their best effort to win. But putting Dorian Thompson-Robinson out there, at this point in his career, Dorian Thompson-Robinson had 1 touchdown pass and 7 interceptions going into the game. And he threw 2 more interceptions and no touchdowns, by the way. So now he's got 1 touchdown, 9 interceptions for his career. And they're trying to say that they're doing everything possible to win the game. Let's be honest. The Browns are tanking. I mean, the players aren't going to try to lose, but the Browns aren't obviously doing everything they can to win. Anyway, Jerry Jeudy, they asked him in one of these press conferences when he went and had his huge 200-yard receiving game against his former team, the Denver Broncos, who is going to be coming up on the Bengals schedule. They said, did you feel vindicated by playing against your old team, the Broncos? He said, what? What's that? What? They said, did you feel vindicated? He was like, what's that mean? What? What? So Jerry Jeudy had no idea what the word vindicated mean. But again, a really young guy. I'm sure he didn't, major in English when he was in college. So he doesn't need to know what words mean. Just like Jamar Chase. He doesn't know what a lot of words mean. He just knows about how to catch a football. That's all he needs to know about. So anyway, these guys, maybe they don't play Madden. I don't know. But the Browns terrible mistake, gave the Bengals a free 5 yards to immediately walk down the field with not a lot of resistance, to be honest, out of the Browns defense after that. I mean, they have Myles Garrett out there, they have Denzel Ward, but they were doing the kind of bend, don't break. They were giving up a lot of like 10 and 15 yard plays to Jamar Chase and Chase Brown on that opening drive. They had multiple plays over 20 yards. There was a 21-yard run off right tackle by Chase Brown. Joe Burrow threw a 21-yard pass to T. Higgins. There was another 22-yard run by Chase Brown off the left side where they were getting good blocking from the offensive line. But, you know, immediately you could see that the Browns players weren't necessarily interested in really throwing their bodies around. We didn't see the hits the Shaka Hayward was putting on people. We didn't see that out of the Browns. So I would doubt any of the Browns players came out of this game with any terrible injuries. It seemed like more of a, the gentleman's agreement of, hey, we'll come out here and play and give it the solid effort. It looked like the Browns were playing in a preseason game, basically. Looked like, the guys were out there. They were giving it the old college try, but they weren't necessarily putting their necks out too far for the old Cleveland Browns organization. It looked like a self-preservation mode for a lot of these guys. I know they're professionals. They're doing everything to give the fans, what they came for, but I wouldn't say it was a lot of intensity on the Browns side. I saw a lot of guys looking not totally interested, and they've got to know that Dorian Thompson-Robinson isn't going to be the answer at quarterback. So in the back of their minds, especially on offense, looked like a lot of those guys just kind of had given up like halfway through the game, it seemed like. So Bengals went up 7-0 after a incredible Joe Burrow 2-yard touchdown pass where he's scrambling around as he typically does. It looks like he was going to get tripped up, and right before he was parallel to the ground, right before his knees hit in front of him, Joe Burrow managed to somehow toss the ball out straight in front of him to a wide open T. Higgins in the end zone for a touchdown. T threw the ball up 50 feet straight up in the air like a geyser at Yellowstone Park, and all the Bengals fans are going crazy, which I didn't realize this until recently. I think it's the Green Bay Packers and the Cincinnati Bengals both play the same song after they score a touchdown. I noticed this on the Packers last game. I think it was Sunday Night Football. They play the I don't want to work, I just want to bang on the drum all day song when they score a touchdown too. So there's only 32 teams, and I don't know which one started doing it first, but we got to make a distinction. We can't all be playing the same touchdown song. The Vikings, they play Prince with the, what is it? Let's Go Crazy. That, the song I'm talking about. That song after they score a touchdown, which is kind of a little bit weird and repetitive. But anyway, getting off track. Bengals, they go on top 7-0 with another stellar drive. It was, 8 plays, 99 yards, 5 minutes off the clock, and no negative plays for the Bengals at all. It was just gain after gain, first down after first down, and they never got to a third down. They barely even got to a second down. It was like most of their plays were going for first down. So I don't know if it was maybe just good offensive game plan going into the game for the Bengals, but that first series was about as good as you can get, going 99 yards, scoring a touchdown. Browns came out and it just went backwards. The first play on the Browns' second drive was a loss of 6 yards where Mike Hilton came in off the right side and almost tackled Dorian Thompson-Robinson before he had a chance to complete the fake. It was supposed to be like a run fake or something, but the whole play was just blown up because Mike Hilton was standing there right off the snap. It must have just been a case of Mike Hilton timing up the snap with Dorian Thompson-Robinson's cadence, and the Browns didn't do enough to identify that Mike Hilton was blitzing, gave him an easy lane right to the quarterback. So immediately the Browns are at 2nd and 16. After that, they had an incomplete pass, got into 3rd and 16, and they managed to get 8 yards on 3rd and 16, so they had to punt. So 3 and out, Browns' second drive, back over to the Bengals. Bengals took over 1st and 10 at their own 27, and Joe Burrow picked the Browns apart with a bunch of short passes. The Browns were playing deep. They didn't want to get beat over the top, so they let the Bengals have the short underneath stuff, and Jamar Chase did a good job of making the catch and then getting yards after the catch. He's so strong. He's breaking tackles, carrying guys for additional yards. So Joe Burrow picked apart with passes to Chase Brown, number 30, the running back out of the backfield, and T. Higgins, number 5. And all the fans love to say T, and hopefully we get to continue to see T playing as the Cincinnati Bengals for years to come. Please sign in, Bengals. But Joe Burrow was 8 for 8 to start the game, so he was moving the ball all the way down the field. They finally had a couple of negative plays. Chase Brown off right side lost 2 yards and had an incomplete pass on 3rd and 3 at the Browns' 28-yard line. They attempted a 47-yard field goal by Cade York, who's kicking against his old team, the Cleveland Browns. And all day, the Browns players, they know they just saw Cade York on their team not that long ago, so they're yelling all kinds of stuff at him, I'm sure. And it was a miss wide to the left from 47 yards. Not the worst kick I've ever seen, but the snap continues to be a little bit of an issue, I would say. They're going to have to probably take a look at new long snappers this offseason, because this is another snap from Cal Adamitis, which was too far inside at the snapper, basically. At the holder, Ryan Rico. So instead of snapping the ball basically where you want to place it, he keeps snapping it like at Rico's numbers and straight at his body. You want to snap it like a little bit away from his body so he can just catch it and put the ball straight on the ground without having to move too much. But Rico, again, has to like reach all the way back behind his body, catch it, and then swing all the way back to it just throws off the timing. And so as another, I'm not going to make an excuse. Cade York still should have made it, but just the whole mechanics of everything is a little bit off when you get that snap that's inaccurate and not quite perfect. So that was one of the things that kind of kept the Browns in it, even though Bengals had dominated, it seemed like, in this opening quarter. Missed field goal, that gave the ball back to the Browns. But again, they were not able to do much of anything on their third drive. They got a sack on the first play by Chris Jenkins, the rookie, and I think that's his second sack of the season, I want to say. Another situation where DTR was just kind of holding on to the ball too long. Browns were not able to overcome that early 8-yard or 7-yard loss. They got to 3rd and 11, incomplete pass to Elijah Moore, who looked completely uninterested most of the day. But I think this was the pass where one of the problems DTR, the quarterback for the Browns, has, it's not that his arm is weak, and sometimes it's too strong. And this was a situation where he threw it too hard at Elijah Moore, went straight through his hands, and luckily it didn't get intercepted. But sometimes on these short passes, he'll fire these bullet passes at these guys, and they don't have time to react, and then they can't catch it. And that's the thing is, DTR, he's like, as a passer, he's almost the complete opposite of Joe Burrow, whereas Joe Burrow, arm strength is not necessarily his thing, but because of that, he throws a very catchable pass, and he's always got accuracy and timing, so the ball is exactly where it needs to be, in the spot when it needs to be there, and it's not coming at the receiver with a lot of velocity, so that's easy for the receiver to catch it and not worry about breaking their fingers or dislocating something or having it bounce off too hard. If the quarterback doesn't throw that hard, it's a lot easier for you to catch. And then you have DTR, on the other hand, who is firing these rockets at guys, and a lot of times it's totally inaccurate and late or behind him. There was another pass where DTR, the receiver was wide open running on a slant route, and DTR missed him so badly. Cam Taylor-Britt was already beat by like 2 steps behind this guy, but DTR threw it so far behind, it hit Cam Taylor-Britt in the chest, and he wasn't even expecting the ball, so it just bounced right off him. He didn't have time. He threw it so hard, Cam Taylor-Britt couldn't even catch it. But it was just such a poor, inaccurate pass. It was amazing that DTR only threw 2 interceptions to the Bengals, because the Bengals, if they could catch, probably could have had about 5 or 6 interceptions in this game. But again, the Browns had to punt the ball away to Isaiah Williams to the Bengals at their own 26. Fair catch. Bengals take over with, this is into the second quarter now. Bengals had their first 3 and out of the game. They started off decent. 3rd and 2, Joe Burrow threw an incomplete pass, and they decided not to go for it from their own 34-yard line on 4th and 2, punted the ball back away to the Browns. I figure probably could have tried it if you want to be aggressive there, and I figure the Bengals knew that the Browns were not showing much of anything outside of that first 66-yard run on the first play of the game. They had forced 2 consecutive 3 and outs by the Bengals, and they were rewarded by another 3 and out immediately after that by the Browns. This was when Browns got the ball at their own 23. They got 2 yards on 1st and 10. Nice tackle on Jerome Ford by Jordan Battle, number 27, safety coming up, making a nice stop. And then DTR got sacked by Trey Hendrickson for an 8-yard loss. Another instance where he was just holding the ball too long. DTR was kind of reminding me of Joe Burrow in the sense that he was holding the ball longer than you would really expect an NFL quarterback to hold it, except that it would be like if Joe Burrow didn't look downfield for open receivers and just kind of scrambled around and then got sacked. It's like obviously he's an incredible athlete, but the thing that they said after the first drive of the game, they said DTR went into the medical tent to get checked out for a calf injury. So his strongest skill as a professional athlete is running and being athletic. And then the first series, they say he's getting checked out for a calf injury. So that probably wasn't a good sign. He stayed in the game, I think, just because he doesn't get a lot of opportunity to play and start as an NFL quarterback. So even if he had maybe a minor calf strain, he was going to try to tough it out. But not that he was going to be any good in this game anyway, but just the fact that the one thing that he was good at was kind of taken away by the fact that he strained his calf immediately. Browns punted it back to Isaiah Williams. Bengals took, and he returned it to the 50-yard line. So Bengals had great field position with 11 minutes and 34 seconds left to go in the second quarter. They were able to convert that on a 9-play drive. Another play with not a lot of negative plays. There was Mike Gesicki made a catch, a lot of passes to Jamar Chase. Andre Yosivas caught a nice 15-yard catch over the middle, held on to the ball. Some more Chase Brown running hard. And Chase Brown is not the kind of running back that you want to tackle when it's cold, it's late in the season, you don't have a lot to play for. This guy's running at you like literally as hard as humanly possible. Chase Brown runs into people at top speed. So not the kind of guy you want to take on when you're not especially feeling like you want to put your body out there. So Chase Brown was picking up 5 yards, 4 yards, 4 yards, all the way down the field. Finally, Joe Burrow, they got it down to 1st and goal at Browns 6. They threw a couple of incomplete passes. I think he was looking for Jamar Chase to try to extend his league-leading touchdown streak, but they weren't able to connect. Jamar kind of slipped a little bit on his route. He was going to be open, but threw the timing off on that one on 1st and goal. Anyway, 3rd and goal, Joe Burrow finds Andre Yosivas wide open in the middle of the field. It looked like Jamar Chase was getting double covered. T. Higgins was getting double covered. That left Andre wide open for another red zone touchdown. That seems to be one of the things he specializes. I think that's his 12th career touchdown. So Andre continues. He had some more catches in this game, but another strong performance out of that Ivy Leaguer. Speaking of which, it was just announced that the Ivy League is finally going to allow their football teams to compete in the playoffs and in the postseason. For some reason, they had this nonsensical rule and up until now, that football was the only sport that could not participate in postseason play. Every other sport, basketball, hockey, lacrosse, soccer, you name it, anybody else in any other sport could go into the playoffs or the championships or do whatever, in that particular event. But for football, they always had the rule that they said it was like, to not distract the players, or I don't know what the logic was. They said they needed to focus on their studies or something. But football is becoming like the national sport almost, and there's so much money tied into it. Even if it is the Ivy League, they have kind of had to bow to the pressure. Maybe there's somebody who's like threatening legal action. Some of the players in college sports have gotten into some unionization talk. So I don't know if there was some pressure from outside what led to this, but finally the Ivy League's going to participate. Let's see if we can get some more national titles. That would be nice, because that's the thing is, like, back in the old, 50s and 60s, when, Harvard and Princeton and Yale were like big names in college football, they were competing with all these other schools. But since they've dropped out, they couldn't compete. You don't have any national championships for any of these schools that have a long and prestigious history of playing football, but nothing really to show for it other than, just the love of the game and pride of the game type of stuff. So I'm glad to see the Ivy League going to be competing on that national stage where they belong, and hopefully they can show everybody that they're no slouches either. But after that touchdown by Andrei Iosivas, Bengals went up after the extra point, 14-0. Browns promptly punted back to the Bengals again after a 5-play drive that got 15 yards. To their credit, they picked up a first down by Dorian Thompson-Robinson just running for 12 yards on 2nd and 8. So it was a designed quarterback keeper. They said, all right, enough passing it. Let's just have DTR run. Picked up a first down. They weren't able to continue that. They lost 8 yards on another play, sack by Mike Hilton. So another instance where DTR wasn't quite as athletic as he was in college, where he could just get away from everybody. NFL guys are a lot faster. He wasn't able to do the things he used to do at UCLA. So Browns had another 2nd and 18 situation. Seems like Browns were always in like 2nd and long, 3rd and long. They had, again, 3rd and 13 and ended up getting 4 yards on 3rd and 13. A lot of passes by DTR were completed at or behind the line of scrimmage. I looked at the passing chart for DTR, and he had 9 passes behind the line of scrimmage. That's quite unusual, because compared to Joe Burrow, I think he maybe had 1 all day. So I don't know if it was by design. Maybe that was the plan going into the game for the Browns, was to run a lot of screens and dump off passes out into the backfield behind the line of scrimmage, but it just made it that much harder for them to gain yards, because the guy would catch it like 5 yards behind the line, and then there would be a Bengals player there ready to tackle him within a few yards. So they didn't really get a lot of progress. No play or no attempts really deep down the field by the Browns to speak of in this first quarter for sure. And they ended up punting it back to the Bengals again. Let me check here. That was 4 punts. No, excuse me. Yeah, 4 punts in the first half by the Browns. Not much of offense outside of that first play. So they gave it back to the Bengals, and they were able to march down the field. Actually, the punt didn't go that far. That was the other thing, is Bojorquez, the punter for the Browns, not getting a lot of distance on these punts. It went 47 yards, and then a 13-yard return by Isaiah Williams. That got it to the Bengals 32. From there, the Bengals were able to move the ball down the field. Mostly the big play on this one was 3rd and 7 from the Bengals' 47-yard line. Joe Burrow called his own number, scrambled, showed off he's got some wheels, picked up 16 yards and a first down. And then right after that, Myles Garrett came in and sacked Joe Burrow. Myles Garrett was getting mostly double-teamed and sometimes triple-teamed by the Bengals. They had a plan to get 4 and sometimes 6 hands all over Myles Garrett, but can't stop him all the time. He was, I think, one-on-one with Cody Ford in this one. Joe Burrow tried to hold on a little bit too long, let Myles Garrett get there. They got the ball. They had 3rd and 18 at the Browns' 45-yard line. They picked up a short 4-yard pass to Chase Brown that ran it. It was at about 45 seconds left, and the Browns did not call timeout. I guess they just wanted to get to halftime and get it over with. So the Bengals had the ball at the Browns' 41-yard line. They elected to go for a 59-yard field goal attempt from Cade York with 3 seconds left. They called timeout right before halftime, went out. Good this time, good snap, good hold, got just enough on it, and even though it was cold out, so the ball wasn't really flying as well as it would be like on a nice warm day, and there didn't look like there was any wind, so it wasn't any wind helping him in this situation, but Cade York had just about a yard or so extra, made the 59-yard field goal, and that tied, they said, Evan McPherson's record. I thought Evan McPherson's long was 58, but apparently it was tied with Evan McPherson for the longest field goal in Bengals history. So that's pretty incredible that he's already tied and going down in the record books, and Cade York has only been with the Bengals for a couple of weeks. So good sign for him. That took the Bengals into halftime with a 17-0 lead. And then just to show you, give you an idea of how the game was going at halftime, I want to look at the first half statistics real quick. First half summary. Passing yards, Browns 0, because they had DTR completed 3 of 6 passes for 15 yards and also got sacked and lost 15 yards. So only gained 15 yards in the first half passing and then lost 15 yards on sacks. The net of 0. Then running the ball, the Browns had 86 total yards, but they had 66 yards in the first play. So after the first play, the Browns had 35 yards of offense combined for the entire first half. So as one-sided as it can get, and it didn't look like there was going to be any threat from the Browns in this game. But it was right around halftime when there was a little bit of a controversy brewing. I was a little bit wondering why Amarius Mims, number 71, wasn't playing right tackle. On one of the Bengals drives, right after the Andre Iosivas touchdown, their next drive after that, I think it was, we saw the first play, false start by the Bengals right tackle, but it wasn't Mims. It was number 76 out there, Devin Cochran, the guy who had been playing left tackle last week in replace of Cody Ford. So I'm like, why is Devin Cochran out there? They already had Cody Ford and Mims out there, so it didn't make any sense unless something happened to Amarius Mims or he got hurt. So they didn't really mention it on the broadcast until they came back from a commercial and they showed I think it maybe was a replay of something they caught with their CBS cameras on the sidelines, a little bit of an interaction between the offensive line coach for the Bengals, Frank Pollock, and rookie tackle number 71, Amarius Mims. They were kind of talking to each other on the sidelines, and we couldn't see. They had their backs kind of to the cameras. You could only see them from the side and the back. Couldn't make out exactly what it was, but it wasn't exactly a friendly conversation. And at this moment, Amarius Mims, he had his helmet kind of popped up on top of his head, not his helmet on, and he was standing on the sidelines while the Bengals offense was on the field. So he was supposed to be, or would have been in the game, but for some reason he wasn't. He was talking to the coach on the sideline, and the coach didn't look extremely happy to see Amarius on the sideline next to him. He was pointing at the offense out on the field. If I had to guess, if I had to make a speculation about what they were saying, it looked to me, if as someone who's been on football sidelines many times in the past, it looked to me like the coach, be probably an older school coach, he's saying, hey, we need you to get back in there. This is a big game. We're counting on you. We're going up against a tough defense right now. We just had this replacement jump and false start in your place, so could you please go back into the game? I don't know what's going on. And Amarius Mims was kind of shaking his head, didn't really seem like he was ready to go back in the game for whatever reason. And then at one point, the coach put his arm around Amarius Mims on the side, and he didn't shove him or anything, but just kind of had his hand on him, and then kept saying something about him pointing at the field. And then Amarius reached over and just kind of took the coach's hand and put it off of him. He was like, and took a step back away from him. and had a few words to say. And if I had to guess, it was probably something along the lines of, have you lost your mind? Putting your effing hands on me, blah, blah, blah. He didn't look excited about being touched in that moment by the coach. And then one of the Bengals' other staff members kind of intervened, came in between the two of them, separated things. And so there was kind of a tense moment there along the sidelines. And then a few minutes later, the camera showed Amarius Mims like way on the other end. He was like, multiple Bengals staff members and maybe some players were like holding Amarius Mims back and walking him away from the coach because he was yelling something. Couldn't really make out what he was yelling, but again, it didn't look excited. So Amarius Mims did not play for the rest of the game. He was on the bench. The Bengals said he was out with an ankle injury, but then after the game, Amarius Mims said he was fine and he was going to play in the next game. So I don't know what the injury was, if there was an injury or what happened. But after Amarius Mims went out, that's when the Bengals started giving up a lot more sacks and not having quite as much success as they had on those first few drives when they scored the first 2 touchdowns. As soon as Amarius Mims went out, things started going a little bit easier for the Browns defense. So I don't know what the deal was after the game, get ahead of myself, but after the game, the post-conference, obviously, Zac Taylor just tried to dodge all those questions as much as possible. And the Bengals reporters, they're not trying to make any enemies, so they don't ask any really tough questions. I feel like one of them will be the designated person to jump on the grenade and ask the question that needs to be asked by someone. So someone will finally, after, they get to almost the end, they'll say, oh, by the way, what was up with Amarius Mims and the coach almost getting into a fight on the sideline? And Zac Taylor says, oh, that's just football. That's how it goes sometimes. And we're good. It's all fine. So everything's nothing to worry about. No big deal, according to Zac Taylor. Just like when Joe Burrow was like, hey, Zac Taylor, go F yourself. Oh, Joe Burrow, that's just how you are. I love you, Joe Burrow. Please don't get me fired. Because Zac Taylor knows that Joe Burrow makes 10 or 20 times more money than him. So if it comes between Joe Burrow or Jamar Chase or him, they're going to choose Joe Burrow. So he's got to be friendly and buddy-buddy with all the players. And, the first-round pick, he wants to get in a fight with my coach. No big deal, buddy. All good. So that's how it goes on the Bengals team. Everything's positive. Everything's all good. But unfortunately, after the Bengals came out of halftime, they looked like they were in a preseason mode for whatever reason. They came out and had a punt, 6 plays, only gained 12 yards on their first drive after halftime. So they were not able to complete the mythical double dip that Zac Taylor always dreams about. Bengals were able to pick up 1 first down, but then there was one play where Joe Burrow, 1st and 10 from the Bengals, 36, scrambled to the right, and Myles Garrett was just on the borderline of getting a late hit on Joe Burrow along the sidelines, but he managed to jump, leap in midair, and come down on Joe Burrow while he had 1 foot still in bounds. So it landed with all his weight on top of Joe Burrow, but somehow it was still a legal play. And then Myles Garrett went flying into the Browns bench and took out one of the drink lockers, and all the players had to dive and pick him up. It was a ridiculous looking play, but Joe Burrow got up. Luckily, no worse for the wear, and just kind of shrugged it off, laughing, and probably had some words to say to Myles Garrett. But that was a scary play because Myles Garrett is one of the biggest, fastest, strongest human beings on planet Earth. And for him to come screaming at Joe Burrow and land with all his weight, it could have gone ugly in that moment for the Bengals season. All the hopes could have been lost on that one. But luckily, Joe Burrow got up, managed to go on with the rest of the game. But they got to a 3rd and 4 from their own 42-yard line, but incomplete pass to T. Higgins. Ended up having to punt the ball away to the Browns. Browns took over 1st and 10 from their own 30-yard line with about 11 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter. Bengals are still ahead 17-0 at this point. To their credit, Browns have some kind of life to come out early in this 3rd quarter. They ran DTR, picked up 3 yards and then a 12-yard pass to Jerome Ford on a screenplay. He was able to break some tackles and pick up a first down. DTR threw another short pass, 6 yards to David Njoku over the middle. Then he did some more scrambling on 3rd and 4, picked up the first down. So DTR is using his legs to make things happen, try to get positive plays, not get like sacks and penalties and all that kind of stuff. They had a lot of negative plays, but they didn't have a lot of penalties on the Browns on offense. So there's not a lot of experience, I guess, from DTR, but he did manage to pick up a pass interference penalty on Marco Wilson going up against Jerry Jeudy. Tight coverage. Could have gone either way, but that gave the Browns a first down when it would have been 3rd and 4. Browns would have had to punt. That gave the Browns a first down. Then right after that, they completed a 29-yard pass to David Njoku on a screen. Good blocking by the offensive line out in front of him. He got all the way down to the Bengals' 7-yard line, and then they were able to complete it with a touchdown to Jerome Ford off right tackle. Not a lot of resistance from the Bengals defense on that one. So it looked like the Browns are going to get back to within 10, but obviously Dustin Hopkins misses the extra point, so it keeps it at 17-6 Bengals at that point with about 6 minutes left to go. They keep talking about how Dustin Hopkins is their kicker of the future, but he can't even make an extra point at this point, so they're going to have to get rid of him in the offseason, I'm sure. Bengals took over 1st and 10 from their own 26-yard line after a Jermaine Burton return out to their own 26. 2nd and 10 after an incomplete pass. Joe Burrow threw short to the right to T. Higgins for a 3-yard gain, but T. Higgins was injured on the tackle by Denzel Ward. It seemed like he kind of tweaked his ankle a little bit while getting tackled. He was down. They had to go to commercial break, obviously. T. Higgins was out of the game for a few plays. He managed to return, so it didn't seem like it was anything too serious. But T was out of the game for 3rd and 7. That had Joe Burrow looking a little bit, holding the ball a little bit too long. He didn't see Grant Delpit coming in on the late safety blitz and took a 9-yard sack. That put the Bengals back at their own 20-yard line. But on 4th and 16, Ryan Rico, rookie punter, unleashed a nice 62-yard bomb of a punt. Got returned for 18 yards, unfortunately, to the Browns' 36-yard line. But good distance on Ryan Rico's punt. There was some good coverage, especially by DJ Ivey, number 38. Good to see him. He had a good play on special teams and also one on defense coming up, I think, in this drive. After the Browns took over, they converted like one deep pass to Jerry Jeudy for 15 yards. That was like the deepest pass all day for the Browns, and that gave them a first down about at midfield. They had a short run, and then they got a roughing the passer penalty where it was incomplete to Jerry Jeudy over the middle. And Jerry Jeudy got bent up awkwardly, and he came out of the game. I don't know if he came back into the game after this because he was probably thinking, let me go back to the bench and not get hurt any longer and be out for the rest of the season. So he came out after that play. We saw T. Higgins go out. Jerry Jeudy's out now. But it was roughing the passer late, like super late. Joseph Osai tried to act like he got pushed into DTR, but hit him for no reason when the ball was already gone for like 5 seconds. So ridiculous penalty on the Bengals. Not smart. But they managed to kind of hold him a little bit. There was a DTR scramble for 14 yards. So that was the biggest thing he was able to do was run it. Not a lot of passing going on. Actually, Jerry Jeudy came back into the game right after that. So Jerry Jeudy was only out for a few plays. He came back. Browns had it down into the Bengals red zone. They looked like they had a touchdown. It was a run around the right side for 11 yards by DTR. It looked like it's going to be his first touchdown of the season, but Browns had a holding penalty by the tight end. I think it's Jordan Akins, number 88. He had a hold of, I think it was DJ Ivey, or actually Josh Newton, I think it was. Holding, had him grabbed around the jersey, so that brought back the Browns touchdown, made it 1st and 14 at about the 15-yard line. DTR got 14 yards back on 2nd and 21 because there was another holding penalty on one of the receivers on 2nd and 14, the play before this. So Browns, they get it all the way to the Bengals 11-yard line. And then they get 2 holding penalties, basically, move it all the way back. DTR gets 14 yards on the scramble. He almost fumbles it, where the ball pops out, but somehow Joseph Ossai comes from behind, strips the ball out of DTR's hand, but it just like miraculously bounces right back into DTR's hand, and while he's laying on the ground. So Browns hold on to the ball, but the next play, Bengals send their own safety blitz. Geno Stone comes in, puts the hit on DTR, the quarterback, right when he's getting rid of the ball. Dante Foreman, I think, was the running back who was supposed to be pass protecting for DTR. He completely misses Geno Stone on the blitz. He, turns the complete wrong way, doesn't even get a hand on Geno Stone or slow him down at all, gives him a free path right into DTR, who, even if he didn't get hit, he was trying to throw into double coverage. So it was a terrible decision to even try to throw it where he was throwing it at that time anyway. Even if it hadn't been this complete inaccurate duck of a pass, it would have been probably picked off either way. So getting intercepted in the end zone is what Jameis Winston got benched for. DTR does the same thing in this game. So instead of having a touchdown and getting back within one score, Browns give the ball back to the Bengals. At this point, Bengals take over from their own 20-yard line, up 17-6 with about 13 and a half minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. T. Higgins comes back into the game. They get 5 yards on a Chase Brown run. He's running hard as he's been all game, but it doesn't break off the big run. And Joe Burrow gets sacked on 2nd and 5 by Mike Hall, the rookie out of Ohio State. That puts the Bengals into 3rd and 10. They're able to complete a pass to Mike Gesicki over the middle, but he gets tackled and only gets 9 yards. Bengals have a decision. Again, 4th and 1 from their own 29. Zac Taylor decides to keep it conservative. Browns don't jump off sides this time. They don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe. They don't jump and give the Bengals a free first down. So Bengals decide to punt 56 yards and a fair catch down to the Browns' 15-yard line. Browns, they don't take advantage of this opportunity. They have a 6-play drive for 26 yards. Short pass to Jerome Ford. They pick up a few yards here and there. A couple first downs from Jerome Ford running it. But then DTR tries to scramble out to the right, and he's trying to, again, force the ball into David Njoku because I guess he was saying Jerry Jeudy was getting double covered by the Bengals defense, and their other wide receiving threat, Cedric Tillman, was out of the game. So for whatever reason, he was looking at David Njoku a little bit too much at this moment. DJ Ivy had good coverage. He was able to deflect the pass and went up into the air, and Geno Stone came in and intercepted it at the Browns' 41-yard line. So Bengals take over. Again, this is another turnover. This is the 3rd turnover that the Bengals defense has forced in this game and have not given the ball away at all. So the Bengals are up 3-0 turnover-wise, and they're up 17-6 in the game with about 8.5 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. Everything is looking good for the Bengals. And things continue looking good with Chase Brown running for 9 yards on 1st and 10 and another 4 yards to pick up a first down. And then one of my favorite passes of the season on 4th and 10 from the Bengals' 46-yard line. Joe Burrow launches a deep, majestic rainbow up the right side to number 80, Andre Iosivas, who goes up and makes the catch. It was a perfectly thrown ball. Nice catch over the shoulder by Andre Iosivas to pick up 32 yards on a first down. This was over number 22, Denzel Ward, who got up complaining about a push-off by Iosivas. And on slow motion replay, there was just the most subtlest hint of a, getting separation with that left hand by Andre before the ball arrived, but nothing egregious. He didn't extend the arms. It wasn't like a T. Higgins where he would have just shoved him and been totally obvious about it. Andre just had the arm out there and gave himself just enough of a bump to keep Denzel Ward away from him while he made the catch. So great throw by Burrow, great play by Andre to convert that into a catch and stay in bounds and complete it. Then Joe Burrow completed a 15-yard pass to Jamar Chase on the left side. Nice catch and run. And then tack on a personal foul face mask penalty on Martin Emerson when he was trying to tackle Jamar Chase, because Jamar Chase is so difficult to bring down. Guys will just do anything. They kind of panic and grab his face mask, just trying to get him onto the ground. So that gives the Bengals the ball at the Browns' 3-yard line. First and goal from the 3. They run Chase Brown up the middle. He picks up 2 yards. Second and goal from the 1. They bring in Matt Lee to bring in an extra offensive lineman. They run Chase Brown off right tackle, and he gets stopped for no gain. Mike Hall, rookie defensive tackle, stops him. And, he's a big guy, Mike Hall, but that's kind of one of the drawbacks of Chase Brown. In these two situations, he's got 2 carries inside the 3-yard line. He's not able to score a touchdown. He's not really the biggest guy, so when he gets hit by guys who basically outweigh him by 100 pounds, he's not going anywhere. So Bengals have third and goal from the Browns' 1-yard line. This is time for a little Joe Burrow magic. He gets the ball. He's scrambling around. He's one-on-one with the defensive tackle. Or a defensive end. He thinks, oh, okay, I'll just spin out of this. No big deal. Unfortunately, he's not able to juke out this guy, Isaiah McGuire. I think he was an undrafted rookie, but he manages to come in, swipe up the ball right when Joe Burrow's trying to spin away, pokes the ball out of Joe Burrow's hands. Those below average size hands aren't able to hold on to the ball in the cold. It comes out. Browns recover it at the 21-yard line. So the Bengals had it at the Browns' 1-yard line, and just like the Browns did, they turned the ball over to the Bengals, I should say, and Joe Burrow fumbles the ball. This is the first mistake probably by Joe Burrow all day. He'd been almost perfect going into this, and then the one thing that you can't do, you're at the opponent's 1-yard line, you're going to put the game away, put it out of reach. The one thing you can't do is fail to score and then give the ball back to the other team. That's exactly what he did. So when people want to talk about Joe Burrow for MVP, yeah, he's got a lot of statistics, but can't be making mistakes like that. And obviously the Browns weren't going to do anything with it anyway, but still though, it could have cost the Bengals a game if this had been a better opponent. But even though the Bengals didn't score, the one thing that they had going for them was they burned almost 4 minutes of time off the clock. So the Browns took over from their own 21-yard line, down 17-6, 4.5 minutes left to go in the game. And they are trying to throw passes still. So they managed to pick up 15-yard pass to Eli Moore on 2nd and 7 to get it out to the 39-yard line. They get another complete pass to Eli Moore for 6 yards to bring up 2nd and 4, but then DTR gets sacked again by Chris Jenkins. That's Chris Jenkins' second sack of this game. And 3rd and 8, passing complete deep left. 4th and 8, this might have been the craziest play from DTR all game. He's scrambling around, doing spin moves, juking guys out all over in the Bengals backfield. It looks like he's sacked like 8 different times. BJ Hill can't get him. And then he throws like a falling away pass to David Njoku up the left sidelines to pick up 12 yards. Toe tap grab while Njoku's falling out of bounds. 4th and 8. Browns pick up the first down at their own 41-yard line with 3 minutes left to go. They pick up 2 yards and then no gain on an incomplete pass where DTR got called for intentional grounding, and that moved them back 12 yards because, again, he was scrambling around, not finding an open receiver downfield, not throwing it away. And I think Cedric Johnson, rookie number 52, 6th-round pick, was applying the pressure on that play. Would have been a sack if it hadn't been intentional grounding. So good play by Cedric Johnson. And then right after that, Dorian Thompson-Robinson got sacked for another 7-yard loss to put it into 4th and 27. 4th and 27, they tried to throw a deep pass. Should have been intercepted by the Bengals, but they were not able to bring it down. I can't remember if that was the play where looked like Jermaine Pratt and Geno Stone were fighting over an interception at one point. The ball got popped up into the air. Jermaine Pratt for sure was going to intercept it, and then it got like stripped out by Geno Stone. So not great teamwork by the Bengals on that one, but that gave the ball. That was pretty much the end of the game because the Browns, at this point, it was the 2-minute warning. There's only 2 minutes left to go, and they went for it on 4th and 27. Didn't get it and didn't get any penalty. Ball went back to the Bengals. And then they kind of scored a meaningless touchdown 2 plays later where Joe Burrow got the Browns defensive end Myles Garrett to jump off sides with the hard count. And then Jamar Chase went up the sidelines for a 32-yard touchdown. So that was basically to get Joe Burrow that continued streak of 3 touchdown passes in a game. I think, he's on a streak of like 6 or 7. I think this was his 7th game with 3 touchdown passes and more than 250 yards passing. So all these big name Hall of Fame quarterbacks he wants to go down in the record books with. So this made the score look a little bit better for the Bengals. Instead of 17-6, they went up by 24-6 in the last 2 minutes of the game. But really, they didn't do much in the second half, the Bengals, on offense. Maybe it was because Amarius Mims went out or because T. Higgins was kind of limited with that ankle injury. But it was good to see Andre Iosivas finally get a deep down the field catch. He's been mostly a red zone threat or short yardage, but this was one of the few passes we had seen. I knew he had that ability, just hadn't seen it translate yet into production on the field. But Browns still left DTR in the game at this point. It's 24-6. There's a minute and a half left. They didn't do anything. They had 5 plays. They ran around a bunch, incomplete passes to nobody. Finally, Joseph Osai got another sack, and they didn't do anything. Gave the ball back to the Bengals at the Browns' 43-yard line after not much of anything. And then Jake Browning came in and took a knee for the last play. So I think I saw number 84, Tanner McLachlan, out there on that last play also. So he has not been completely scrubbed off the face of the earth. Tanner McLachlan does exist. He was active in this game. This was the first game Tanner McLachlan was active in uniform on the field, participating for the Cincinnati Bengals. And so probably me and Tanner McLachlan's extended relatives are the only people in the world who even care. But thank goodness that he actually got in the game when everybody else got hurt at his position. So he does exist. We'll have to see if he can maybe get a catch or two in one of these games coming up. But there'll be plenty to talk about. At least, this is the first 3-game win streak the Bengals have had all season. The longest they've had before this was 2 games. So this is a good time to get on a streak, hopefully ride it all the way through the rest of the season. The biggest game of the season, remaining is going to be the next one, Saturday against the Denver Broncos. But we'll preview that in the next episode coming up shortly. It's going to be a short week because the Bengals only have 6 days from Sunday to Saturday to prepare against this decisive game against the Broncos, who currently sit, I think they're either number 6 or number 7 in the playoff rankings. They might have fallen behind the Chargers after that loss. But Broncos are coming in on extra rest because their last game was last Thursday. So they didn't play on Sunday like the Bengals did. They played on Thursday. Broncos have extra rest. They're coming down from altitude. So we'll have to see. But there will be plenty of things to discuss in that next episode. If you've listened all the way to the end, because this is the end, finally. Just like Spiro Ditas said, finally, mercifully, the game is over for DTR. That's what I felt like in this game. It was so painful to watch DTR. He's not a real quarterback. I hate to say it. I'm sure he works very hard. He seems like a nice guy. He says all the right things. And the Browns were like, oh yeah, now that he's got a full week of practice, we're going to see what DTR can do. And unfortunately, the answer continues to be not that much. He doesn't seem like he's going to have it seems like, kind of a Ryan Finley kind of career. It's probably not going to last very long. So I hope football fans aren't subjected to watching any more DTR playing quarterback in NFL because it's not good. Nobody wants to see this. Maybe the Browns will play Bailey Zappi, but The Browns, they're honestly tanking. They're tied with a bunch of other teams with only 3 wins. So that if they can continue to lose out, they'll probably get a really good draft pick. Maybe they can draft a better quarterback to replace Deshaun Watson. Who knows what the Browns are going to do? That's kind of in their DNA, is tanking and losing as many games as possible. But we don't need to worry about the Browns. This is a Bengals podcast. So leave me your comments. Let me know, do you think the Bengals are going to win the game coming up against the Broncos? Do you think the Browns are tanking by playing DTR? Let me know what you think, but give me a thumbs up, positive rating, subscribe, tell your friends how sweet this podcast is, all that kind of stuff. And I'll be back on the next episode. But until then, I'm going to leave you with a hoo-day and stay hungry for more Bengal Bites.